Hello, thank you for joining the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs for our Wednesday webinar, where today we're going to be talking about cybersecurity basics. And October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so we just sent out some information kind of late last night about that and have it posted on the news section of our website. So we appreciate you guys taking part in this webinar and helping us kick off Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Kind of want to give you a quick rundown of the 4 simple steps that we kind of encourage everybody to do. And these are things that, we really want to focus on because they're simple things. You don't have to be a computer expert or anything like that. I will say I had a journalism degree. I'm not a computer science major or anything like that, but these are all simple things that we can all do. And we encourage everybody to do. And the reason we have these tips are they kind of the best advice at the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is part of Homeland Security, as well as the FBI, have kind of come up with a lot of these tips. And they say these are the 4 simple things that we can all do to protect ourselves while we're online. And they're things that you don't have to be a computer expert, again, to take advantage of and do. So we'll kind of focus on those strong, unique passwords, 2-factor authentication, keeping that software updated, and we'll start with recognizing and reporting phishing attempts. And the reason I always kind of want to start with that one is because it's kind of the hardest one of those for most of us, right? So just kind of recognizing what's going on out there, and those scammers we know can be very convincing. They have a lot of different tools that they use to trick us. So that's kind of why I want to start with this one, because it's a little bit longer part of the presentation. It's a little bit more difficult sometimes to kind of recognize those phishing attempts. And of course, scammers like to pretend to be somebody else, right? They don't want you to know who they really are. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Big thing is, they want to trick us, right? So they want you to think that there's somebody that you know, somebody that you trust. And spoofing is kind of that tactic that they use for all of that. And their goal with all of this is, of course, to make you think something else is really going on. And they're going to make these attacks look believable, right? So spoofing is kind of that thing that we first kind of thought of, with phone calls, things like that. Your caller ID shows up as a different number whenever, these calls come in, scammers. They're doing the same type of stuff now with email, text messages, pretty much every type of way that we communicate. We kind of use that spoofing term for all types of communication now, not just phone calls. And phishing is generally that message that they're shooting out to us. They're trying to get us to maybe click on something. They're trying to trick us into handing over usernames, passwords, credit card numbers, any kind of sensitive information that there's kind of that gain for them to get. And it could be a variety of things. It could even be health information, something like that. So, I really want to encourage you to think about the types of information you're being asked about, why you're being asked to give it, and how that information might be used if it gets into the wrong hands. And again, all these things can involve email, text messages, social media messages, even those computer pop-up windows that we get from time to time. So anytime you're getting these messages asking for any of that sensitive data, you really want to think about that. And of course, with social media, you also kind of want to be aware that even that it is somebody that and that you follow and that you're friends with on social media. Those accounts can be hacked. They can also be faked. So there's a lot of different ways that scammers kind of shoot us a lot of these types of messages. And I've got a couple of quick examples here, and I'm going to start with one of the text messages that I'm sure everybody in the state received a variety of this one at some point in time. And of course, it's that one trying to get you to click in there and give some information. It says your recent trip through an express lane on the toll road, you violated it, and you currently owe $4.89, but if you don't pay this late fee, you're going to owe $48.90. So that's kind of one of those that a lot of us got. And of course, if you start to look at these things, just simply doesn't add up. The one toll road in the state is not called the South Carolina Express Lane, first of all, and the website was kind of a random website that it would go to. So it has a lot of those kind of warning signs there. And I always tell people, I've accidentally run a toll road and they sent me something in the mail, and it was, a photo of my truck at the time going through that toll road. So usually there's some kind of proof, and it's not just a text message. If you think about it for a minute, you might be like, well, how did they know that was my car? How did they know my phone number? Those types of things. A couple of other examples that I've got here. One was one I got a little while back. It says my Target order been canceled, but of course, I didn't pay or do anything on Target. Never ordered anything, so they're just trying to get you to kind of click in there. They're saying the order was canceled. They haven't charged you yet, but you got to click on this link to get the details on what went wrong. And kind of the first sign to me that this wasn't right was it came to an email that's not associated with anything I've ever ordered online from Target, and it also had a wrong name for me there. So that was kind of some of those warning signs with that one. And then I've got one more that this one, I have to be honest, almost got me because I got a message saying I needed to update Disney Plus account that, if I wanted to use Disney, ESPN, Hulu, any of those types of stuff, I needed to go in and update my information that my account was on hold. And as I sat there for a second, I realized that's not true. I just used it, 30 minutes ago, and I just paid the payment today. So why is my account on hold? And lo and behold, you click in there and it came from a Gmail address. So of course, that's not how Disney and HBO or Hulu, any of those services would send that information. So there's usually some kind of little warning signs with all of these little things. And I just kind of like to show some of those quick examples as we talk about these phishing attempts. And of course, these scammers have all kinds of schemes that they use. And if you've been on our presentations, you've heard us talk about a lot of these. But, a lot of the things that they'll say is, they've noticed some kind of suspicious activity, some kind of login attempt that maybe was stopped. And they try to get you to kind of click in and provide information that way. They may say there's a problem with your account or your payment information. So kind of like that Disney one that I just showed. Or they want you to confirm some personal information. So they may be looking, sometimes it's your address. Oh, you didn't get that package. You need to confirm your address and this type of information in order to get it. So they're looking for a little bit of details from you in a lot of these types of things. A couple of other quick examples. You may get those messages saying you're eligible for a government refund, maybe a coupon for some free stuff from a company. I get those from time to time. Again, they may want you to click something to confirm some login information, maybe some payment information. That's kind of what I suspect that Target one would have done if I would have clicked on there. They probably wanted me to enter my passwords and all that type of stuff, or maybe some of my payment information. And a lot of times you'll get those fake invoices. I know we get those from time to time in our emails or even our text messages, where they say you've paid something that you didn't really pay. And they have that invoice that, makes it look like some kind of payment is about to go through. And it's usually a couple $100 or something to kind of work you up, get you afraid that those big charges are going to go through, and they want you to click into all of those links and that. So just kind of be aware that those things are out there. And of course, we've got some of these little things to keep in mind whenever you're getting these emails, text messages, social media messages. Generic greetings are kind of one of those warning signs. So if it's a company that you use and that, should have all your information, especially your name, you shouldn't be getting those dear customer type things, right? Kind of like that other example too with my Target ad. It was pulling, a name off my email. That's not my real name, but it was pulling up something, one of the other type things like that off an email. So it was kind of pulling some weird information there. So that was kind of one of those warning signs with that as well. So just kind of look for those greetings that aren't quite right. A lot of times they'll have those demands to act now or else, right? And that's what they're doing to try to get you worked up. They want you to act fast. They want you to be afraid that something bad's going to happen. And then they're going to ask you to confirm, verify, update personal information, login details, things like that. And just kind of keep in mind as well that scammers sometimes have information about you, and they're going to use those details to make yourself or make themselves seem more believable. I hear about that from time to time with people whose financial institutions maybe had some kind of security breach where these hackers have those email addresses for customers or phone numbers for those customers, and then they're sending them those messages pretending to be that bank or that credit card company, whatever the case may be. So they may know what companies you use from some of those breaches, and they're kind of using that to exploit that and kind of make themselves believable because they know you use that company. So that's kind of one of those reasons that we always give our number one rule is you want to verify all that information that somebody's sending you. So you don't want to hand over personal financial information to somebody if you can't verify who they really are. And I tell people you may want to use those customer support numbers, websites that you know are tried and true, like there are apps, especially financial institutions. I know my bank always sends me those messages in their secure app. They're not going to send me that over text message most of the time. So that would be kind of that way to verify that. Or you can always look up those phone numbers on your bills or on the back of your credit card, debit card, whatever the case may be, and use those tried, true, trusted ways to get in touch with those companies and some of those little defense tools as well. So just kind of watch out anytime somebody's asking you to verify personal financial information. You don't want to reply to those messages. You don't want to click any of those links because you don't know where those links are going to go. Maybe you downloading malware, or they may be just kind of tracking what you're doing online. So you kind of want to just watch out about any of those links, especially if it's something that's going to start downloading software or anything like that. You want to be careful about what you're clicking on. Don't download attachments or anything like that in those unexpected messages. And of course, you don't want to call them back, text them back, anything like that. And the reason we say that is you don't want those scammers to know that you're somebody who's going to respond to them. So they kind of put you on some of those other lists that they have as somebody who replies to text messages or calls messages back. And that can kind of result in you getting more of these types of messages or phone calls, whatever the case may be. So you really want to be mindful about that. And again, kind of use those trusted ways to communicate with those companies. If you're getting those messages, go to their website directly. Don't click those links. Call those phone numbers you know are on your customer support numbers, things like that. And one of the easiest things you can do is take advantage of those little report and delete functions on your phone, especially your cell phone, if you're getting these types of messages. You probably have something like that there at the bottom. If you actually open the text message, you'll have something that says report junk. And you probably have one of those functions like this one that says delete and report junk. And that's basically reporting it to your phone provider. Is going to let them know that this is a trouble number that's coming through. They're trying to, flood you with junk messages, spam messages. So you want to take advantage of that. Let those phone providers know that those calls and phone numbers and those text messages are junk. Report them. Emails usually have something that's similar like that where you can report spam. So really take advantage of those, and that's going to let those phone providers and those email providers kind of do that work to figure out who some of those troublemakers are and hopefully start reducing some of those that get through to your phone. And we're going to talk briefly about some of the strong and unique passwords. I know we did a presentation a few weeks ago on a lot of these details, but it's a good time to give you that little refresher of all the little things you can do to have a strong, unique password. Of course, longer is usually stronger with most of these. 16 characters is kind of that range where they're saying now is safe. Again, longer is generally the easiest way to increase that strength for your passwords, but you also want to use uppercase, lowercase letters, maybe put some symbols and numbers, things like that in there as well. And kind of the more variety that you have on there is going to be kind of more strength for that password. And a lot of times they'll say random is the best way to do that. So if it just makes no sense at all whenever you look at that, and I know a lot of us look at that and say, if 16 characters and it's random, how am I supposed to remember all of that? That's kind of really where those password managers might be the key for you. So they'll kind of help remember all of this stuff, keep track of what's going on. And a lot of them will also go through and tell you if there's security breaches or if there's, passwords you're reusing, things like that. So that will be a good tool to take advantage of. We've got this link in there. I'm not able to recommend any to you as a state employee, but the state safeonline.org. They've got a lot of information about password managers, just different things to keep in mind whenever you're choosing one. So that might be a good resource for you. And again, a lot of times phones and things like that may have password managers built into them as well. So that will be a good tool for you maybe to take advantage of. And, kind of the key with that is you also want to just kind of make sure your main password to get into that password manager is the one that's kind of the most secure, right? So that's the one that you've put all of those big characters in, maybe find a phrase or something like that that you can use. A lot of times they'll say a passphrase instead of a password now. So you've got multiple words in there, different symbols, things like that. Just make them complicated, make them unique, and you really want to guard that password for that password manager if you're taking advantage of one. Some key tips for your passwords. Again, you've heard me say make them unique, so you don't want to reuse passwords on multiple accounts. And the example we always give for that is, you don't want somebody to hack into your Netflix account and also have access to your bank account because you've used that same password over and over and over on everything. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. So you don't want to reuse all those passwords multiple times. If you've got to pick security questions, make sure they're ones that only you know the answer to. Definitely don't want to pick things that may be out on social media or something like that. Some things are easy to guess. So just kind of be mindful of those security questions that kind of give you that access into accounts as well. And you want to quickly change passwords if there's any kind of breach. So that's one of the first things you should do if you get notification that an account you have has some kind of security breach, some kind of hacking, anything like that. You want to go in and kind of change those passwords immediately, just so somebody else kind of can't get into those accounts. And one of the things I want to show you, and just kind of mentioned those password managers a second ago. A lot of browsers may have this as well. So I think this was an example from Google Chrome. So if you've saved passwords in Google Chrome, you can kind of go in there, look for that password checkup. All these password managers and browsers, and your phone probably has something similar. I think Apple has an app that just says passwords that you can go in and look at all those passwords you've saved. They all have some kind of variety of this. So you'll look this one, and it just checked for 3 passwords that were saved in there. It's going to show you no compromise passwords in this case, but you got 2 reused passwords and 1 weak password. And then they're going to kind of give you those recommendations to go in there and either create a unique password for those ones that have been reused or create a strong password for those that are safe. And again, if it's got any that have kind of been compromised or there's known breaches for those companies, is going to give you those recommendations to go in and change those as well. So just kind of take advantage of those tools. They're free, they're easy to use generally. And if you go in from time to time, take a look at that, or especially if you know of a breach, that's going to really help you kind of protect those accounts. And a lot of companies and websites and apps are kind of moving towards pass keys instead of passwords. I'm not going to get a whole lot into that, but they are kind of that replacement for password. And basically, they allow you to log in without using a password. And what they're doing, they're using kind of the same things that you use for multi-factor authentication. They're using those ways to kind of verify your identity, probably face scan, something like that. You hold it up to your face with your phone, it scans, and then it's going to get you into that account. They're kind of set up where they're unique to each person, unique to each device, and there's a series of kind of complicated things that they're doing to verify all that information and unlock those passwords and pass keys on those accounts that they're tied to. Got a whole presentation that we did on this back in August. If you have our slides, you can go to the link that's right there, but it's on our YouTube channel. So we have a whole thing on passwords and passkeys that you can go through and take a look at that presentation if you're interested in all of that. But all the security experts really want you to kind of consider using that. They say it's a lot more secure. There's a lot more encryption going on and processes going on that are a lot more complicated, and everything's tied directly to you and your device. So even if those accounts, hackers are able to get those passwords or anything, they're not able to unlock that pass key because it's tied to you and that device. So that's kind of some of the reasoning behind that. They say it's a whole lot more secure than just a password. So that's why a lot of apps especially are kind of moving towards that. So again, that's something you want to learn a lot more about. We've got a whole presentation on that on our YouTube channel. And as we talk a little bit about two-factor authentication, really want to encourage you to set those up if you have not done so on all your accounts, especially financial accounts, emails, social media. So you want to take advantage of all those things. And of course, by now you probably know a little bit about multi-factor or two-factor authentication. It's kind of that standard that the FBI is really kind of encouraging folks. They say it makes it twice as hard to get into any of your accounts. So if hackers have that password, they don't have that next step to be able to get into those accounts. And a lot of times it's something as simple as a PIN that's maybe sent to you, might be that face scan, fingerprint, whatever the case may be, but it's that extra step that you're taking to be able to access those accounts. And generally they're kind of set around 3 kind of separate things, maybe a knowledge factor. So it might be an additional PIN, something like that, that you're sent. Possession factor, again, would be those things like you have your smartphone, maybe an app on it that you open up and it says, is this you? That might be one of those types of things. There are kind of those hardware devices that you can put into your computer, things like that, that then allow you to be able to access those accounts. And that's, again, that possession factor. You have to have that thumb drive or whatever to plug in there. So that might be one of those examples. And again, the one that we probably all are familiar with on our phones, either that fingerprint, face scan, whatever the case may be. Really encourage you to take a look at what those accounts might offer. Find something that you're familiar with if you're not or comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with the face scan, maybe you're fine with just getting that 6-digit code sent to your own phone, those little PIN numbers that they'll send. Just kind of figure out what you're comfortable with and take advantage of something. And again, that's going to make it kind of twice as hard for these hackers to get into those accounts. And a lot of times people say, how do I enable this? Depending on the accounts that you have, they may be kind of going by a couple of different names. Generally, if you go into your device settings, look for account settings, and there'll probably be something under privacy or something like that. And then you can look for either the words multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication. Some places call it two-step. So just kind of take a look at any of those little varieties of that. You want to make sure you turn it on. A lot of accounts now are requiring two-factor authentication. So that may not even be an option for you at this point, but if you have those options, I highly encourage you to turn them on, especially for things like emails, financial services. Most financial accounts, at least ones that I have, require it. So that's a great thing. Social media accounts, if you haven't turned those on for social media, please do so, because we do get lots of calls from people who, had their social media accounts hacked and can't get in there now because those hackers have done, a variety of things. So really protect yourself on that front end. Put in those strong passwords and then turn on two-factor authentication. It will really kind of secure those accounts from hackers and those people who want to get in and use your information. Updating software is one of those things that you probably aren't thinking about, but it's really the easiest thing that we can do to protect ourselves. And a lot of times these little software updates are going to fix those security risks that may be out there. And you want to do those updates, as soon as they come available. Turn on automatic updates if that's possible. You want to do this not only for your operating systems, but those applications you use, any web browsers, antivirus software, turn it on for all of those different things on your devices. And it's really going to protect you, fix all those security flaws that might be out there. I know from time to time you'll hear, security flaw found in, whatever app or whatever web browser or something like that. But these automatic updates are going to help you fix a lot of those as soon as they're kind of discovered, and as soon as these flaws have a fix to them, those companies will push out those updates. If you're like me, I have a bad habit of filling up my phone with photos and videos all the time, so I kind of have to go in and search for some of those updates from time to time. But I know that's a bad habit that I have, so once a week or so I'll go in, look for those updates, and then have to go through and delete all those photos of the dog to be able to get those updates to push through. But that's just kind of one of those simple things that we all can do. And again, it's free, it's easy, and if you turn on automatic updates, you don't even have to think about it as long as you have that space available on your device. And that's kind of one of those hard things to keep in mind sometimes with that. And as we get moving, we've got a couple of other little free tools to think about that can help protect you and your information. And first one I've got is just kind of securing your home router. This is one that I have to admit sometimes I've been bad about. You get that router from the company and it's got a name, it's got a password already set off. And a lot of times we don't think about that, but sometimes when there are security breaches with those companies that either provide that router to you or have made it, sometimes those names and passwords may be out there on the dark web. So it's kind of why we say to go in and do that. I know I got a new internet provider not too long ago, and it was just that good reminder for me as soon as I was setting that up. Go in, change that name, change that password, and have it as only information that I know, not something that somebody else has set up, and that information be out there. You might also want to consider turning off remote management and logging out as the administrator once you have everything set up. And that's just going to prevent other people from kind of getting access to that device as it's out there. And that might be another way to kind of better protect you. And if you're like me again, disconnect those old devices. I'm sure we all have an old phone sitting somewhere or old tablet, in a drawer somewhere, but you want to make sure those things aren't connected to your router and aren't getting in on your Wi-Fi, things like that, just because they could be that weak point on the security on your system. So if they're not updated, they may be going into websites that, could be blocked from other security measures that you have set up with your other devices. So, a lot of times those old devices don't get all those updates anymore. They're not necessarily getting all those services, especially with operating systems, things like that. They may be out of date and just kind of not getting all those security features that are available now. So you want to make sure if they're no longer usable, get them off the network, sign them out and turn them off, and consider getting them recycled if they're no longer relevant devices. Just be mindful about the free public Wi-Fi hotspots, things like that that may be out there. Public Wi-Fi, you don't always know who's watching what you're doing. If you're on, always say library, coffee shop, you don't want to be getting into your financial services or getting into your email, those accounts that you really need to guard. The reason we say that is you just don't know who's able to kind of monitor your keystrokes, monitor what you're doing on those websites, things like that. So you might want to just consider using those hotspots maybe on your phone. I know a lot of times when I have to travel for work, I don't get onto the Wi-Fi at a lot of the places I'll travel to, but I use my phone to securely kind of get on the internet on my laptop, things like that. I'll use that internet that's provided on the hotspot on my phone. So just kind of think about those types of things, and especially if you're logging into any public Wi-Fi, you don't want to be doing your banking and your email and the things that you might need to protect. We always encourage you to consider your payment options. And one thing that you may not be thinking about is just entering in credit card, debit card information online. We really encourage you to use a credit card whenever you're buying stuff online. That's going to give you more consumer protections than what a debit card offers. Credit card is going to get you that money back faster onto your accounts, at least while those challenges are going through. If there's, charges that you didn't authorize that kind of go through there. So just kind of keep that in mind. And the big thing with debit cards also, they're that direct line into your checking account and into your savings account and those type of things. So that could really impact your finances, even if those funds are eventually put back into your account. It can kind of create a chain while you're challenging those charges. If you have automatic drafts that are about to come out and things like that, they can be impacted by those fraudulent charges. Just while those challenges are going through, it takes a little bit longer for that money to get back on a debit card. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, if it's possible to use a credit card, that's going to be a little bit more secure, and there's a lot more protections on those credit cards. And I always encourage folks to monitor bank statements, any of those financial statements. We hear people time to time, have gone a very long time without checking into those accounts. So you want to kind of monitor those as often as you can. Just make sure you challenge those things that may pop up from time to time. If it's unauthorized activity, you'll want to challenge those as soon as you can, because there are time limits with some of those challenges. So if you're seeing those unauthorized activities, especially on your debit cards, you want to challenge those as soon as you can, catch those as quickly as you can, report them to your bank, your credit card, those types of things. And I've also got those alerts written there. Those are good tools to take advantage of as well. So if you've got, your credit card, debit card, whatever, one of those accounts will have those alerts where they'll send you notifications. Maybe there's an online purchase. Maybe you've spent a certain dollar amount. They'll text message you about those spending. And you can also set them up. Maybe if your accounts go below a certain dollar amount, you can get those notifications. Those are all great tools to take advantage of. And again, it's one of those things I tell people: look what your bank and your credit card are offering, see what works for the way you use your cards, and take advantage of whatever is going to kind of help you monitor what's going on with your spending, and if somebody else has got access to those numbers somehow. if you're posting online, share with care, right? So think about what you're posting before you post it. And you can say that for a variety of reasons, but what we're talking about are those things that you might be sharing that kind of reveal details about you that other people can take advantage of to maybe figure out passwords, security questions, steal your identity online. So you really want to think about what you're sharing. And sometimes I tell people kind of think about those things too, because it may kind of reveal information about other people as well, about family members, things like that. So just kind of be mindful about what you're sharing. Maybe think about who you're sharing it with, right? So you want to make sure that you're going through those privacy settings, maybe set some of those things so only people you follow on social media are able to see those posts, things like that. But you also want to go through all your apps, look at those privacy and security settings. You should be able to go into some of those phone settings, look for privacy, look for security settings, and kind of see what you're comfortable with sharing. You just kind of don't know sometimes what some of those companies are looking at. We always kind of look at some of the examples, and it's, why does a chess game need to know all of my phone contacts? Why do they need all the email addresses of everybody that I have in there? So just kind of look at what some of those apps ask for and what kind of makes sense for what that app's purpose is. Of course, something like your maps app, you probably want to allow location services for them, right? So it makes sense for the function of that app. But if it's something else that, again, solitaire, something like that, they probably don't need to know where your location is. So just kind of go through some of those settings, see what you're comfortable with sharing with those companies, and, turn the other things off. Encourage folks to look at your credit reports regularly, and that's going to help you find any of those signs of identity theft that may be out there. And we recommend annualcreditreport.com because it is authorized by federal law, how they have to use your data and what they can't share about you with other companies, things like that. So there are rules with how annualcreditreport.com operates, and they're going to give you one free credit report every week. It used to be just once a year that they would offer you those credit reports. But now you're able to access them every week from Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. So you want to get those, go through them, make sure everything's accurate, make sure everything belongs to you, make sure any of those details are yours. If you're going through, you could look at, I always say car loan is the perfect example of that because it should show you kind of what that loan was for, how much you pay each month, what's remaining on that balance. So you want to go through those, make sure all that kind of adds up. And if you're seeing, credit card accounts or something that you did not open, you want to challenge those again as fast as possible, and then take those steps to make sure that those accounts are closed out and that those companies know that it wasn't you. And you can put a fraud alert on your credit reports if you're finding signs of identity theft, and it's going to last a year. You can't extend it beyond that for 7 years, but you need to contact one of the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and they'll put that fraud alert in place with the other two for you. And basically that's going to notify businesses that something has happened to your credit reports and your identity, and they need to take extra steps to verify that it really is you trying to open up those accounts. And again, that's going to be that free tool that you can put in place, and it will just kind of help guide businesses to know to take a closer look if somebody's trying to open up lines of credit. The security freeze is a great tool to take advantage of. It is free to place, and it's going to stop people from being able to access your credit report, and it's going to stop people from opening accounts in your name. So if you're not out there kind of actively trying to create a new credit card account or get a car loan, home loan, whatever the case may be, you probably want to put a security freeze in place, and it's going to stop other people from opening up those lines of credit in your name. And I can tell you, it helped me. Somebody had information about me, tried to open up a credit card in my name. Luckily, I had that freeze in place, and it stopped it right there. Got a message from Experian saying, somebody tried to open up this account in your name, and they gave me some steps to take. If it was me, I'm supposed to go back in and notify them and, reapply, things like that. But, that freeze is that great tool, stopped a lot of headache on my end. Again, if you want to put those in place, it is free. It is also free to lift it or to thaw it. I always give the example of me looking for a car. I knew I was going to go this day to look for a car loan, thawed that freeze, went out, got my car, did the test drive, all that. By the time we were ready to signed all the paperwork. That thaw had already gone through, so I was able to put in that application as soon as that process was done, had it set up on their account, so it automatically went back in place. You can set those up automatically on their websites for Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You do have to go to all three of those credit bureaus to put that freeze in place or to lift it. But it, again, is that great tool to take advantage of. It'll only take you a few moments if you're doing it online, probably less than 5 minutes to go through and put that in place or to thaw it on each of those three credit bureaus. But again, it's that great tool that we encourage folks to take advantage of, and it will really help kind of secure your information and prevent other people from using your information if they've somehow gotten a hold of it. And as we kind of wrap up, I want to give a quick kind of the main takeaway. And we always say, security methods aren't necessarily 100% safe. So maybe combine some of these things, right? So that's why we say use the strong password, use multi-factor authentication, update those passwords. You want to just kind of keep building on to those measures. So the more things that you do, the stronger it is, right? So you just keep adding on to it. And then it gets stronger as you keep adding security measures on there. So again, the more security measures, the higher the protection. So again, you want to take advantage of those strong passwords, update those devices, and use two-factor authentication. And then, of course, kind of watch out for those signs of phishing and scams that are out there. And if you find out that you are the victim of an identity theft situation or a scam, you can contact our office. 803-734-4200 is our phone number, and consumer.sc.gov is the best place to kind of go to look for that how do I button. And you can file those reports with us, either scams or identity theft. And again, our identity theft unit will kind of go through their little toolkit with you. They've got a couple of step-by-step examples of things that you can do to stop the damage, repair damage, kind of minimize whatever may have happened. And they'll kind of walk you through that process. And they've got a little check sheet that they go through too that's kind of specific for different types of identity theft. So that will be something that they can kind of walk you through if that has happened to you. And we do have a lot of other publications available on our website, consumer.sc.gov. Ditch the Pitch that you see there is probably our most popular guide. You can download that on our website, or you can request physical copies, and we will send those out to folks for free. I mentioned Ditch the Pitch because that's got a great deal of tools and resources on avoiding those phishing attempts, things like that. So that's kind of that scam guide that we mentioned. We've also got credit report guides and our identity theft prevention guide as well. And those are all free. And you can take a look at all of those resources that are available at consumer.sc.gov. I encourage you to follow us, especially through Cybersecurity Awareness Month on social media. Facebook, X, and Instagram will be posting a lot of different tips, depending on whatever platform you prefer. Take advantage, follow us on those platforms, and we'll be sharing information throughout October. And of course, our YouTube channel has a lot of our webinars and videos as well. So if you've missed a webinar, or you just want to go back and look at other topics, you can do that by going to our SCDCA TV on YouTube. Somebody's asking about paying to take information off the dark web. I know we all probably get a lot of those companies that offer those types of services. The big thing with that is a lot of security experts will say it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole with that. Once you take it off one spot, it may be popping up somewhere else. A lot of financial institutions kind of have their fraud folks who kind of do some of that same service as well. So, I kind of encourage you, if you are paying somebody to do that, just kind of know what they're doing to do that and kind of what their process is. It's kind of hard to recommend if you should pay for that or not. It's kind of just depends on how much you want to get into all of those details. But if your social security number and things like that are out there, doing that security freeze is going to be the big thing, changing those passwords. And again, we'll kind of talk about a lot of this next week in that presentation, but take advantage of those credit freezes, those security freezes on those credit reports. That's going to do kind of that big thing to protect all that information, especially if a social security number's out there. I know that's happened with me. I had my information in a data breach that had a great deal of information about me. put that freeze in place. That's going to be that biggest thing that you can do to protect that information. So, probably for most of us, that information is out there, unfortunately. So putting that freeze in place is going to kind of stop other people from using that information. And it really is one of the biggest things that you can do. If you're paying for credit monitoring services, things like that, just kind of keep in mind most of the time the things they're doing are things that you can do yourself. They're just kind of monitoring your credit reports. Basically, they're going through those credit reports and looking at those details that may be popping up and notifying you if something new has happened. Again, that is something that you can do for free. That's kind of a personal thing. If know you're not going to go into those credit reports regularly and look at them, you may want to pay somebody to monitor that. That's kind of up to you, but that is something that you can do for free yourself. And again, you can go to annualcreditreport.com once a week, look at those accounts. You don't have to do all three at once. You can kind of look at Experian one week, look at Equifax the next week, look at TransUnion, some other time after that. You can spread them out like that if you are overwhelmed by looking at all three at once. But, generally it won't take you a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes to go through all three of those. If nothing's going on that's dramatically different, you can kind of go through those as well. I see this question kind of asked about businesses being responsible for protecting private information. There are kind of laws that are in place with, those various types of businesses. And we are doing kind of training methods that we do with some of those businesses. So throughout October, we've got, I believe, 3 different business webinars off the top of my head. Just kind of what their obligations are as far as protecting data, notifying customers if that data is breached, and kind of how those security breach notices should be written up. So we do have those details on our website in that news release about our Cybersecurity Awareness Month stuff. But again, there are laws that kind of over what they are supposed to protect and what they should do if there is a breach. We'll kind of be doing those with those businesses throughout the month. So I appreciate you about asking that question. Thank you for being here, and we hope to see you again next week.